If your social media feeds have started to feel less like a fun community and more like a boring old utility, you're definitely not alone. There's a real reason for that feeling of stagnation. So, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly why the big social media giants feel so stuck in the past and what the future, a future owned by users, is actually starting to look like.
Right? It's that feeling of just endlessly scrolling through these platforms that have totally lost their spark. They've become something we just use, not something we're excited about. But here's the thing, this isn't just a feeling you're having, it's a real symptom of a much, much bigger trend.
And here's our first big clue. Think about other parts of tech, like, say, mobile phones. The top dogs are always changing. But social media? It's been weirdly different. Giants like Facebook and X have been around for over a decade. And it's not because they're constantly innovating. Nope. It's because of these super powerful network effects that have kind of locked all of us in. We stay because, well, everyone else is there. So this brings us to what we can pretty accurately call the great social stagnation. And to really understand why these platforms feel so stale, we need to look at the life cycle of pretty much any digital trend. Turns out it follows this surprisingly predictable path from boom to bust. This life cycle, it maps our situation perfectly. Phase 1, innovation. That's the exciting part at the beginning. Remember when Instagram first came out with photo filters? Total game changer. Phase 2, saturation. That's when the platform becomes a must-have. But phase 3, stagnation, well, that's where today's giants are completely trapped. The whole goal shifts from making things better for us, the users, to just maximizing profit. And that leads to things like, every single platform copying stories. They're surviving on their massive size, not on fresh ideas. So, what's the actual consequence of all this stagnation? It boils down to a huge problem called context collapse. See, these giant monolithic platforms, they try to be everything to everyone. And in doing that, they end up being truly great for, well, pretty much no one. Just think about your own life for a second. You have a professional you, right? For networking and work stuff. Then you've got your hobby you for all your passions. And of course, there's your personal you for your close friends and family. I mean, you don't talk to your boss the same way you talk to your gaming buddies, right? Of course not. Each one of those identities needs its own space to breathe. And this really gets to the absolute heart of the problem. These big platforms force all those different identities into one single chaotic feed. Your serious professional update is sitting right next to a picture of your nephew, which is right next to a super niche meme, and it all just feels awkward. That's context collapse, and it's exactly why using these platforms can feel so unsatisfying. But the solution isn't just another big platform. It's a complete, fundamental change in how we think about this stuff. It's a shift away from just consuming social media to actively building it. And this brings us to this new idea, SNAS, or Social Networks as a Service. Now, this is crucial. This is not another social network. Think of it as a toolkit. It gives anyone, creators, communities, even businesses, the power to instantly fire up their very own specialized, purpose-built social network. Okay, so how does this actually work in the real world? Well, the SaaS model is usually built on 4 key pillars that directly fix the failures of that old monolithic system. Let's break these down real quick. First, you've got modular components. They're like digital Legos. You only use the pieces you actually need, so you avoid all of that feature bloat. Then there's full customization, which means a community can build its own trusted home online, not just, rent a room in someone else's giant messy mansion. Portable data ownership. This one is revolutionary. It means you own your data, and you can take it with you whenever you want. And finally, distributed moderation. This lets each community set its own rules, which completely solves that whole context collapse problem for good. So when you put all of these pieces together, you can really start to see the bigger picture. We are not talking about replacing one monopoly with a new one. No way. We're talking about moving toward a rich, diverse ecosystem of countless specialized communities. This really represents a massive shift in thinking. Success is no longer about having billions of users. Like the quote says, the new metric is all about the depth of engagement and the quality of the connection. It's a big move from just sheer scale to actual substance. And this visualizes the whole transition perfectly. We are moving away from that monolithic era, the one-size-fits-all, centrally controlled world where, let's be honest, the user was the product. And we're moving into a specialized era.
This new era is all about purpose-built platforms, deep niche communities, and a model where the user is finally the owner. And, this isn't just some hypothetical idea, it's a direct response to a real and growing demand. That feeling of stagnation we talked about at the very beginning, that's the sound of the market crying out for more focused, user-controlled digital spaces. And the best part is, the technology to actually build them is finally here. So all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. After a decade of everyone chasing global scale, what if the future of connection isn't about getting bigger at all? What if the next big thing in social is actually thousands and thousands of small, meaningful communities?